Good afternoon. We will now reconvene the regular council meeting of Monday, March 4th, 2024. We are rising from closed session. There is no report from closed session, so we will commence the rest of the agenda. We need a resolution from council to open the public meeting with regards to section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. Councillor Byrne, Councillor Edgerton, all in favor? That is approved. We'll now look to Mr. Wilkinson with regards to the report, PEB 2024-11, Giroux zoning bylaw amendment. Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Through you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. Before you is planning report PEB 2024-11. This report is regarding a zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0424, which is required to bring into compliance a private, non-commercial accessory structure built on the property without the benefit of building permits, which also exceeds the permitted lot coverage for accessory structures in the zone. The purpose of this meeting is for the members of the public to provide comment and ask questions related to the application. The report recommends that bylaw number 2024-13 be approved to rezone the lands in Part 16, Concession 1, Cavan, known municipally as 1215 Carmel Line, from the Oak Ridges Marine Countryside Zone to the Oak Ridges Marine Countryside Exception 5 Zone. The zoning bylaw amendment is required to bring the property in compliance with the zoning bylaw. Table 11A of the zoning bylaw states that the lot coverage for accessory buildings and structures cannot exceed the ground floor area of the principal building. The total lot coverage for all accessory buildings on site exceeds the lot coverage for the existing house. In the ORM CO5 zone, the maximum lot coverage for accessory buildings and structures will be 9% of the total lot area. All other standard regulations of the Oak Ridges Marine Countryside Zone will apply to the rest of the property. I would note that the lot coverage in all other residential zones would be 10%, and if this garage were not on the Oak Ridges Marine, the size would be permitted. The notice of the zoning bylaw amendment application was circulated by first-class prepaid mail to assess persons within 120 meters, 400 feet of the lands affected by the zoning bylaw amendment application and to all required ministries and agencies. Notice was provided by email to Township Department directors, ministries, and agencies requesting notices by email. A sign of the notice was posted on the Carmel Line frontage of the subject property, and the notice of the public meeting was posted on the township website. The notice complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. To date, township staff have received one informational phone call. No other comments have been received from the public. Staff did receive comments from Enbridge Gas, Hiawatha First Nation, Ministry of Transportation, and Autonomy Conservation. None of the agencies noted an objection to the application. Township building staff have noted no objection to the rezoning, but note that a subsequent building permit will be required if the application is approved. Some concerns have been noted regarding the lighting on the building. The lighting will be required to be designed to be dark sky compliant as stated in section 11-0.20 of the zoning bylaw. Township staff have no objections to the application. The application before council was reviewed by planning staff in respect to Provincial Policy Statement 2020, Growth Plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe 2022, County Official Plan, and the Township Official Plan. The application is considered to be consistent with the PPS and conforms to the Growth Plan, the County Official Plan, and the Township Official Plan. Staff are recommending that council receive and consider all comments related to the zoning bylaw, and following the public meeting, that zoning bylaw 2024-13 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Wilkinson. Questions or comments from members of council for Matt with regards to the application? Seeing none, we'll now open the portion of the meeting up to members of the public wishing to speak to the report and the amendment. If anyone wishes to speak to it, they can just approach the podium. Going once, going twice. Anyone wishing to speak? If not, we'll move on. Okay, very good. Consideration of the report, council. Anyone wishing to speak to it? There are two recommendations. One, that council receive to consider any public comments received, obviously none, and that the bylaw number 2024-13 be approved to rezone the subject lands from the Oak Ridges Marine Countryside Zone to the Oak Ridges Marine Countryside Exception 5. So, and just for clarity, again, I think Matt touched on it, but with regards to the other bylaws, those all have to be in conformity before the permit is actually issued. So look for a mover and a seconder for those two recommendations in the report. Councillor Byrne, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Now we need a resolution to close the public meeting. Councillor Byrne, Councillor Edgerton, all in favor? That is approved. Very good. The public meeting is now closed. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the regular meeting held February 20th, 2024. Any issues with the minutes? If not, we can look into approve those as presented. Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? Those minutes are approved. We have minutes from committees and boards. The Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes of January 27th and March 14th. We're looking to receive those minutes for information. Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. And lastly, the Kevin Monaghan Public Library Board minutes of January 16th be received for information. Moved by Councillor Natchoff, Councillor Edgerton, all in favor? Those are also approved. We'll now move into the reports. Report 11.1, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. The report before you is to appoint Lauren Hood as a building inspector and bylaw enforcement officer for the Township of Kevin Monaghan. Lauren's been with us since July of 2022, has been doing an excellent job and has recently passed all her ministry certification exams. So we're looking for approval of the bylaw to appoint her as required.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Congratulations, Lauren, on receiving all your accreditations and all your schooling. Questions, members of council? Councillor Byrne and then Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through the chair, just for clarity on the overview, it refers to a chief building official. And then later on, it doesn't refer to that. So is there a special designation? I just wondered.
Through your chair, Councillor Byrne, it refers to that, it's just referencing what the verbiage is of the building code. So it says that the municipality shall appoint all chief building officials and building inspectors as necessary. You need at least one. The chief building official is me and building inspectors as necessary. So today, Lauren Hood is being certified as a building inspector.
Deputy Mayor, question?
Through your chair, no question. I was just going to move the report and hopefully welcome Lauren.
Very good. So that's moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Natchoff. Any considerations with the recommendations? If not, we can call a vote. All in favor? That is approved. Congratulations, Ms. Hood. Next report is 11.2, City of Peterborough Cross Border Servicing OPA, Ms. Ellis.
Mayor Graham, members of council, members of the public, planning report 2024-12 is before you today with the following recommendations. Excuse me. Firstly, that report PEB 2024-12 be received for information. And secondly, that the following comments be forwarded to the City of Peterborough for consideration. Firstly, the Township of Kevin Monaghan generally supports the proposed official plan amendment to permit the consideration of cross-border servicing under certain circumstances. And secondly, the township respectfully requests that the proposed official plan amendment include a requirement for a motion of support from the municipality in which the development opportunity is located prior to the city consideration of service extension beyond the city boundary. And lastly, that the township respectfully requests that the city establish and publish guidelines for the evaluation of mutually beneficial development opportunities. So following the recommendations, it's just before you today for information, and the recommendations are based on information received from the City of Peterborough in the notice and a follow-up discussion with the Director of Planning for the City of Peterborough.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Questions, members of council? Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair, I'm not sure how far staff has got with the city. It mentions they still think that they've exhausted all of their opportunities inside, which probably be contested. But what I'm curious about, when they're talking about services, are they combining freshwater, stormwater, sewer systems, or could it be any portion of those three topics? How is that going to work as far as what they extend to us? And if they're giving you any indication where they'd like to start as far as this cross-border servicing?
So I can just provide some comments and then Ms. Ellis can go. So what the purpose of this report is just our comments on the city's OPA. So this is an agreement. There's no agreement between the city. What we're asking is actually for some clarity as to what a reciprocal or what a mutually beneficial agreement means. in their definition or what terms might be included in that. So what the real meat of these three comments that we're providing is to provide a bit more clarity and definition of what you mean by these sorts of things. And so they're going through the process. I think the public meeting is in 2 weeks or maybe shorter, 11th. Yeah. Right. So there's a public meeting where they'll have, but this is only for their OPA comments. So once the legislation's in place, then that will set the framework as to how they can even legislatively approach any conversations thereafter. So what we're asking for specifically is that if they want to pursue with a proponent that might not be within their boundary to provide service, that we're saying they also should have first and foremost confirmation and consent with the municipality, with the lands that the proponent is in before they pursue anything. And then in addition to that, that they also, while they finish the OPA, provide some clarity as to what those sorts of how the mutually beneficial arrangement will be determined. But Ms. Ellis, maybe you want to provide a bit more clarity.
Through you, Mayor Graham, to members of council. So just for council's information, this official plan amendment is a general amendment to the official plan that opens the door for the city to consider cross-border servicing. The cross-border servicing, to the best of my knowledge, would include piped water, piped sewer, and potentially stormwater pipes. That's the limit of the cross-border servicing that would be anticipated with this amendment. If a development proposal comes forward in a municipality adjacent to the city of Peterborough that is interested in cross-border servicing, another official plan amendment application will have to be filed with the city of Peterborough. And that site-specific official plan amendment would have to have justification attached to that, why that amendment is appropriate, how the development should unfold, why it requires cross-border servicing, et cetera. So this is the amendment being considered by the city right now is the overarching general policy framework, but additional evaluation will have to come forward with that site-specific amendment. And that evaluation criteria is why I've included the third recommendation in terms of establishing guidelines for the evaluation of the mutually beneficial development opportunities. I think it's important to provide some information to members of the public, proponents, developers, staff, as well as what kind of parameters are we putting around this type of development. It's not meant to be non-negotiable, hard and fast, but it's just intended to provide some general guidance to those types of development proposals that may be appropriate for cross-border servicing and the lands to which it might apply.
Follow up, Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair. So clarity as well. This veto power, would that extend to both sides of the equation, the city of Peterborough and our township, that we could go case by case is what they're referring to?
Through you, Mayor Graham, to members of council, members of the public. So just to be clear, there is really no veto power with Planning Act applications. So what we're recommending is that for someone to apply to the city of Peterborough to permit cross-border servicing, that person should have to have a motion of support from the host municipality. So we're recommending that, whether the city chooses to adopt that or not, we feel that's appropriate. Just for information, with all Planning Act applications, anybody can apply for whatever they want. Any Planning Act application, that application, once it's deemed complete, is evaluated under the planning framework of the day, and council will make a decision or delegated staff will make a decision. If someone doesn't like that decision, it is appealable, except for minor variances generally, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. So that tribunal would then be the adjudicator of what the decision is on that application.
Other questions, members of council? Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair. As much a question as a comment, but I think I'm getting out here. This has been a long time coming, so it's nice to see a step forward in this process. See how their meeting on the 11th goes, but as far as our township goes, it's obviously helps with growth in certain areas that we'd never be able to achieve growth, whether it's residential and commercial. So it's see it as a bit of an olive branch, and I think it's a good step forward for both the region and us, for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Obviously, there's been lots of conversation on this topic for many years, and I think there's letters dating back to 2019 that this township has recommended that this be something that entertained and a door being open. So it's nice to see that's finally come to fruition. There are two recommendations and number two with three sub-recommendations. Looking for a mover and a seconder with regards to the recommendations in the report. Counselor Byrne, Counselor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Good discussion. Thank you very much. 11.3 is council committee verbal reports. Anyone with a verbal report? Counselor Byrne?
Through the chair, I was just going to mention a couple of things. The farm show is coming up in this next few days, actually Wednesday and Thursday over in Lindsay. I was also going to mention that the coming into maple syrup season, and there's an event going on over on 7A Highway for the Maple Fest. And I just wanted to bring that to somebody's attention. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Natchoff?
Thank you, through chair. Just a brief update with the Millbrook Valley Trails. Our last meeting, we approved the budget for 2024 with thanks from the support from council and the township for the trails. Then continuing with trail reports and updates, and then projects working with the Chris Allison and the Parks and Rec Department has been great, and just mapping out what smaller and larger projects need to be looked at both this year and down the road. And yeah, we'll report back if there's anything in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Seeing no other council committee reports, can I look for a mover and a seconder for those verbal reports? Counselor Natchoff, Counselor Byrne, all in favor? That is approved. There is no general business. There is no correspondence for information. There is one item under correspondence for action. Just bear with me. So there's a letter from Enbridge that was brought to my attention, and they were asked for advocacy, even though I believe the OEB has already made some adjustments since the letter was sent, I believe, if I'm not, let's get my dates correct. But in a conversation at the Power Hour event on a couple Fridays ago, there was members of Enbridge there suggesting they're still interested in advocacy. So that's the catalyst for me just putting the letter on, but open to discussion with regards to a member of council as to how they'd like to proceed with regards to the contents of the letter. Comments, questions? Councilor Byrne?
Through the chair, yes. I definitely think we should be supporting this. I get disgusted sometimes when I hear the opposition to natural gas. So many people are utilizing it. I'm not sure that all the negativity is justified or even be able to be backed up. So I would like to see that we somehow throw some support. We actually have already run into this problem here with the expansion that was planned, that the network or the infrastructure for Enbridge's gas is already lacking. I'd hate to see that anything else is diminished from it.
Thank you, Councilor Byrne. Other questions, members of council? Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, I guess, I mean, obviously the any support we put behind this letter is going to not really matter at this point because the decision was made to back this off. But I mean, I guess it's a little bit critical of me to speak now because I didn't speak to it at county, but I will anyway. And it's also a little bit hypocritical because I do have natural gas in my own house. But the problem I see with this is they're really pushing that the homeowners or the builders, are now going to burden the cost of actually connecting the natural gas to their properties, which I understand, in some of the more remote places, and they have to pay for it up front versus having it amortized over a longer period of time. Well, I think there is an alternative, and we've been hearing a lot about heat pumps that have been going on that could also be used to heat a house. I'm sure you can't cook with a heat pump, but you can heat your house with a heat pump. The biggest setback to those is the fact that the upfront costs of them are very expensive. I mean, there are obviously government kickbacks and things like that that can help out. But I think just carte blanche believing that natural gas is our only way of heating everybody's house is not a very smart, sustainable solution. But anyway, I just want to make that comment, even though, as I said before, I did approve this letter from the county level, but I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I mean, it is a bit of a vague letter and there are nuances within it. I think, you know, I think locally from our perspective, I know there's a number of economic development opportunities when I think of like Squirrel Creek and the opportunities and the potential benefit that natural gas linkage and expansion could create for that business. I mean, the housing example, I think you're right. There are alternatives that aren't going to require this. And there is a lot of the content that leader speaks to that, but from an economic development standpoint, I think there's a lot of local opportunities that would really benefit from this. And we have submitted applications for when Enbridge has allowed us to applications for further enhancements to the infrastructure. So I'm like kind of about two minds depending on what genre you're talking about. But anyways, other questions or comments from members of council? Other than that, we can either receive the letter for information or we can send a letter of support for Enbridge regarding security of natural gas future. Those are the two really only ways to go. But if anyone has questions or wants to make either of those motions, all ears. Deputy Mayor?
I'm happy to make a motion just to receive the letter for now.
Needs a seconder for the motion just to receive. Any questions with regards to that motion? Not, we'll call for the vote. Vote just to receive the letter from Enbridge regarding securing the future of natural gas in Ontario. That is carried. Very good. Motion to receive is passed. So now we're on to the bylaws and I will read them aloud. That bylaw number 2024-12 being a bylaw to appoint building inspector, bylaw enforcement officers for the township of Cabmonaghan, and bylaw number 2024-13 zoning bylaw amendment 1215 Carmel Line, and bylaw number 2024-14 being a bylaw to execute an agreement between the Peterborough Humane Society and the township of Cabmonaghan to set terms of the provision of pound services, be read a first, second, and third time, and passed this fourth day of March, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? That is approved. There is no unfinished business. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, the confirming bylaw number 2024-15 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held March 4th, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time and passed this fourth day of March, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Councillor Edgerton, Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? That confirming bylaw is approved. Lastly, a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Byrne, Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? That is approved. There's a number of upcoming events that I will read aloud now. The Millbrook Downtown BIA Board of Management meeting is Thursday, March 7th at 8 a.m. The Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting is Friday, March 15th at 2 p.m. The regular council meeting of the next regular council meeting is Monday, March 18th at 1 p.m. in the chamber. The Cabmonaghan Public Library Board meeting is Tuesday, March 19th at 7 p.m. at the Millbrook branch. The Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting is Thursday, March 21st at 9 a.m. And the subsequent regular council meetings are Tuesday, April 2nd, and then April 15th, both at 1 p.m. in the chambers. Thanks for joining us today. Hope everyone has a safe and happy afternoon and can enjoy